We're going to be talking about several different things. So I asked everybody to mute at this time so you guys can hear me perfectly. And also there will be moments for questions and answers for any kind of questions you guys may have. So we're going to be covering a lot of information. So a little bit about our agenda. So for me, my name is Krystal Boney. I'm an accountant that works in Chicago, Illinois. I own a company called B Nights, and we service nonprofits and artists like yourself with any kind of taxes and business questions you guys may have. So we're holding these talks during this time to kind of help you with any questions in your tax filings. So we're going to talk about a little bit about COVID-19 resources, expenses you guys can deduct on your taxes, estimated tax payments, the ins and outs of working of selling your work, accounting practices, and business incorporation, and then once again, we'll have time for questions. So a little COVID resources. This is a very limited list, but here's some that may be applicable to you. So the Artworks Fund right now is giving 501c3 status organizations up to $30,000 for disaster loans. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan is an advance up to $10,000 that does not have to be repaid. The Illinois Relief Fund is giving up to $1,500 of unrestricted grants to artists. So these are kind of some things that you guys can consider during this time that you can apply for, and I highly encourage you to do so. And another one that's coming out is the Payback Protection Loan Program. But this loan in particular, you need to use an SBA lender or an institution to apply for this loan. And it can be used for anything up to payroll costs, mortgage interest, rents, and utilities over an 8-week period after you get the loan. No collateral is required, and it's only a 1% fixed rate, and the payments can be deferred for up to 6 months. Okay, so if you guys receive any kind of art grants or emergency funding during this time, I highly recommend that you treat this as taxable income. So what I mean by that is that at the end of the year, next year, on January 31st, 2021, you may receive a 1099 miscellaneous form. So if you receive any kind of grant, from the Illinois Art Relief Fund, you can ask them if you're going to be receiving a 1099 miscellaneous form for those forms. So in order to reduce your tax liability, whether you receive $2,000, $4,000, or $10,000, I require you on your individual tax return to complete a Schedule C, which is a profit or loss for businesses. Okay. Oh, and then one other point, people, on the stimulus checks, just wanted to let you know that people who are eligible for it are single filers that are earning less than $99,000, and then married filing jointly is $198,000. So one thing I want to keep in mind that I have been getting a lot of questions on is that you need to have at least your 2018 tax filing submitted. But that is the assumption that you have filed all your tax returns prior to that. So we have had people ask questions in terms of, well, I haven't filed since 2012, can I just submit my 2018? I highly recommend you don't do that, because the IRS recommends that you file everything in sequential order. So if you haven't done that yet, then please do that, because you need at least 2018 to be able to receive the check. If you're not required to file, which we'll talk about filing requirements, at least for 2019, you can submit your information, your direct deposit information, to the IRS so you can receive the check. Okay. So 2019 filing requirements. So if you earn income, which is $12,200, or married filing jointly of $24,400, you are required to file a tax return. If you had any unearned income, which would be $1,050, and that could be, dividends that you received, any kind of selling of stocks, you have to file a tax return. So if you had any self-employed income of $400, net $400, and when I say net $400, I mean after all the money you received and you take out your expenses, you're left with over $400, you need to file a tax return. If you received any of the following forms: a W-2, a 1099 miscellaneous, which we talked about a little bit earlier, a 1099-K, and those forms are for any kind of credit card transactions, health care through Obamacare, the ACA, or any HSA or MSA distributions, you need to file a tax return. Okay. So any qualifying deductions that you guys need to claim on your tax return, they have to be considered ordinary and necessary for terms of doing your business. So what kind of ordinary necessary things for, an artist? So I would say anything in terms of advertising. So your website would be a deduction, any type of LinkedIn subscriptions. If you're in the Soho house, you can deduct those costs as well. Facebook advertising can be taken off your tax return. Any car expenses. So if you use your car to go to and from, any type of shows you're doing, any type of client work, you can deduct any of the expenses, but not the payments, your car payments, or you can use the mileage to deduct on your returns. Any fees. So if you used, let's say, a photography lab to do any of your work, so any kind of entrance fees, any lab fees, or things like that nature, you can deduct those. Legal and professional. So if you hire an accountant or a lawyer to do any type of paperwork for you, that is also deductible. Your rent on your studios is also deductible. Your home office. If you have a designated space in your home, that is something that is also a great deduction for you guys to do as well. Supplies, so paintbrushes, any type of equipment, canvas, paper, any of those types of things, you need to be able to deduct it. Uniforms, and when I say uniforms, I usually mean if you're a professional photographer, you need to wear a suit or a dress in terms of to go to your client sites and take photographs, that's something that also can be deductible. Any type of insurance, business insurance, accident insurance that's required to do your work is also deductible. Wages, so if you give someone a 1099 miscellaneous form to do some work for you, you can deduct that as well. Any utilities for your studio or any utilities that are associated with your home for your home office, you can do a percentage of those costs associated with getting the deduction. Any travel to any type of show or any type of conference can be deductible, and meals of 50%. So only meals that are conducted with business, not meals where you have to be on site where you're just alone, but only meals with like employees, any leads, or any type of clientele or somebody you want to could do some have a partnership with, you can deduct those. So does anybody have any questions at this time? None? Okay, I'm gonna check the chat box here. Okay. All right, so I'll keep going. So if you guys are self-employed, you have to do estimated tax payments. So any type of 1099 miscellaneous forms, they are not subject to tax withholding. So you need to make these every quarter. So you do 3 times in 1 year, and then the following year you do 1 for the prior year. So if you're gonna owe at least $1,000 on your tax payments, you have to make estimated tax payments. So if you have a W-2 job and you also have a side business, you can increase your withholding in your W-2 to be able to mitigate that. But I highly encourage you guys to do any kind of self-employment tax payments to the IRS. You can do it straight on their website. It's very, very easy, but this will be able to lessen your tax burden every year, because people who don't do this, every time I do kind of any tax preparation for people, they'll owe thousands of dollars at the end of the year and they're unsure why, and it's because they haven't made any estimated tax payments. Okay, so if you guys are selling your work, any type of painting or sculptures, any tangible item, they are always taxable. So in order you need to apply for a sales tax permit because you need to collect taxes on those sales that you are doing. And depending on how much you're selling and how much the amount of the taxes are, they can be done monthly, quarterly, or annually. So this is when you need to become an incorporated business, which we'll talk about in a minute, because you only can get a sales tax permit if you are incorporated. So this is actually required. I know a lot of people don't know about this, but if you are selling items and you're like based in the state of Illinois, you are required to you are required to collect sales taxes on all your work. So to do all this, I recommend you guys having some kind of account system. We use QuickBooks for ours. So it's a fully functional accounting program. It saves time, it saves money. It makes you financial statements. So in terms of a profit and loss that you would use on your tax returns to give to your accountant. And more importantly, when you're applying for loans in this current time, some of them in the banks will be asking for a profit and loss statement in order to process your loan. It does require extensive training, but it's something that you need to do to not only be able to calculate your estimated tax payments, but also to track all your expenses and deductions that you need to do at the end of the year. Because the worst thing that can happen is you forget something and then you'll be paying more taxes at that time because you weren't doing it in the first place. So if you are a business, you guys need to consider doing incorporation. So there's 3 different types. There's a limited liability company, an S corporation, a C corporation. So most of you will fall in terms of an S LLC. So why should you do that? Well, it enhances your credibility and increases your access to capital. So if you have any kind of contractual agreements, whether it be with an artist or an organization, you will want to do that with your business rather than yourself because it'll limit the liability in case you get sued or anything of that nature. During this time also with the crisis, having an LLC, with banks will make you way more credible and it'll be giving you an easier line of credit. It's very inexpensive. You can apply right on the Illinois website. It's like $150 and then it's $75 after that to renew it. But your taxes could change as a result of that because once you making approximately net $40,000 a year, you may want to change to an S corporation, which will save you on self-employment taxes. Okay, so this is how usually a business tax return works for you guys. So if you are an LLC on the left, everyone files a 1040 tax return. And then on top of that, you will put a Schedule C on your return. But once you become an S corporation, you actually do 2 filings, right? So you'll do an S corporation, which will make a form that's called a K-1 that will actually attach to your individual tax return. So you actually have 2 filings. So right now on the left, everyone will probably fall more towards the individual or Schedule C, but just keep in mind of the extra costs when you do hit that net $40,000, you're going to be becoming an S corporation. So here's some important dates to keep in mind, you guys. Okay, so since the filing date has been pushed back, they're now due July 15th individual tax returns, which means also your first quarter estimated tax payments are also due on the 15th. And that will cover the period from January to March. So for June 15th, it's still the same, so it's a little bit weird, but that your second quarter estimated tax payments, which will be covering April 1st to June 15th, will be actually due on June 15th. So there's no penalty for filing, July 15th. There's no penalty for filing your first quarter on July 15th, but those are the new dates that you guys need to keep in mind. And so for the Payback Protection Loan Program that I was talking about, it opened on Friday on April 3rd for small business and sole proprietorships. But for you, if you're an independent contractor or self-employed, so if you're filing for like a Schedule C or you're only getting 1099 miscellaneous forms that we talked about, that form is due on April 10th. But keep in mind, it is a very complex application and you're going to need an SBA lender to be able to do that. And they are due on June 30th on a rolling basis, and it's kind of first come, first served, so try to get that in as quickly as it can. As opposed to Illinois Release Art Fund as well, that's due on April 8th of 2020 at 5. I think they're opening and closing. They're currently opening and closing the application as they see fit and how many applications they're getting. But that's also something that you should want to do as well. Okay, so did anybody have any questions at this point?
All good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Krystal.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Who was talking?
I was saying I think we're good, but if anyone has any questions, don't be shy to ask for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of information, you guys, and this can be a little overwhelming, but, this is definitely a time for you guys to ask anything. I mean, if you don't, this is also, here's my contact info. as well. I mean, you can shoot me a text or an email if there's something like, sensitive that you want to talk about. We can definitely do that as well. Okay. Okay, so we have a question about this PDF can be shared. Usually I do not do that because I'm changing the information constantly because it is like time sensitive information. But if you need any updates, please try to follow us online on LinkedIn, Facebook, or anything like that, because we do update on a regular basis. No problem. Okay. So if there isn't any questions, I appreciate your time. Thank you guys for coming. Sierra, I want to appreciate you setting this up, as well as Mike for doing this in the Hyde Park Art Center. So if not, then I think everyone should enjoy your day and have a good day.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Krystal.
Thank you, Sierra.
Thank you so much.